Hello everybody, I hope you're safe and well. Just a few introductions before we get started with this assembly. My name's Luke Shale, I'm the Partnership Development Manager at Wakefield Trinity. I head up the SSP, so all the sports provision in your school, the basketball, the rugby league, the SSP coaches and Leeds United Primary Stars department who we're running the assemblies with today. They're all run through the SSP part of the programme. So I have Matt with me today. Matt's going to co-deliver the assembly with me today. Matt, do you just want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Matt Herschel-Smith from Leeds United Foundation, part of the Primary Stars team.
Yes, so guys, the assembly we're going to talk about today is all around plastic pollution, how we can tackle it and the problems plastics are causing our oceans. It's a worldwide issue at the minute that's affecting environments, marine-based animals and marine-based wildlife that live in the oceans. Although we all live in the Wakefield district, the Wakefield area or the Leeds district, and we live quite far away from the seas and from the oceans, it's still something that has a really big impact on our life because it's not just the seas and the oceans it affects. When you're down the side of the street, you might be looking in the bushes or in a field, you might see plastic popping up everywhere. So this assembly is linked to ocean plastics, but as well trying to link it into the world as a whole. Throughout the presentation, there will be an opportunity for you and your teachers to pause this video at any point if you'd like to have a class discussion about anything we raise throughout the assembly, and then you can just click play when you're ready to move on. There are a few short videos in there as well, which your teachers can lead on, and then when you're ready to play the assembly again, the presentation, we're back ready to go. So I will then hand back over to Matt to talk you through the next slide.
Okay, so following today's assembly, we're hoping that you'll be able to kind of describe what the human activity how that affects the global environment. As Luke kind of mentioned, it does have a massive impact on the oceans and the seas, but it also has a massive impact on your local community and your local area. So we're going to have a little bit of discussion about what we can do to kind of help that. We're also going to explain why ocean plastic is an issue for our world today. So why is it a really big issue and why are we today here talking to you about it? And then towards the end of the presentation, hopefully you're going to identify different types of plastics and how we use them and the different types of plastics, how they're made and how we can recycle them as well. Okay, so we're going to watch a short video. I'm going to hand back to Luke, who's going to explain about the video.
Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to watch a small film or a short clip on oceans, plastic pollution effect it can have on the world and the environment as a whole. So a few things I want you to keep an eye out for, make notes on during this short 2-minute clip is why do we as people use so much plastic? What is a single-use plastic? You might not know the answer to that now, but hopefully after this video you might have a little bit more of an idea as to what a single-use plastic is. When we finish with our plastics, and we finish, so for example, my water bottle here, when I've thrown that away, where does that go? What happens to it? And then how plastic pollution and how plastics going into the oceans, how that actually affects the ocean and the wildlife that lives within it. So I'm just going to now play the video, and then if your teachers need to pause the video at any point, that's absolutely fine, and go for discussion. That's also fine.
Hi, I'm Dee Kafari and I'm a professional sailor and I've sailed around the world 6 times. Most recently, I was the skipper of a boat called Turn the Tide on Plastic in the Volvo Ocean Race. Part of what I do is to teach people about the problems of plastic pollution in our oceans. I want to talk to you about plastic and what you can do to help. But first off, a quick history lesson. Did you know that plastic was invented 100 years ago, but it wasn't until the 1960s that it became popular? It was so useful and today is used for a wide range of uses. It's hard to imagine life without it now. Each year we make 300 million tons of plastic. That's the weight of the entire population on the planet. That's a lot, right? In fact, if we put all the plastic made over the last few decades in cling film, it would be enough to be an entire layer around the whole Earth. So why is it so popular? Plastic is inexpensive and easy to make. It's lightweight but strong. It's super flexible and can be made into lots of different things. Take a simple ruler, once made from wood, now much cheaper to make from modern day plastic. Plastic is durable, which means it lasts a long time, which is great for something you use time and time again, like your washing up bowl at home. The problem comes when you use plastic just once, like a drinking straw. They're very difficult to get rid of, resulting in billions of them being thrown into landfill, and that's a mountain every day. So what type of things are made from plastic? Well, plastic is all around us, and you'd probably be surprised at how much we rely on it in our daily lives. Did you know the toys you play with at home, the glitter you use to decorate your artwork, your lunchbox, and the cling film around your sandwich, surprisingly even the tea bag that your teacher uses for our afternoon brew, all these things are made of plastic. Plastics can be placed into one of three groups depending on their use. For example, some, like a football or these trainers, are used for a long period of time over and over again. These are called extended use plastics. Others we use for a few months and then we throw them away. These are called limited use plastics. For example, your toothbrush. The final type of plastics are those that we literally use once and throw away. Like this water bottle. This is single-use plastics, and this is the group that we need to be most aware of. We need to reduce our use of single-use plastics, and the good news is, it's easy to do.
So hopefully you enjoyed that video, and it was something a little bit of an eye-opener for you guys as to the different types of plastic and the questions we asked you before the slide started. We're going to give you 30 seconds now to discuss with your teachers, or you to ask your teachers or your parents any questions you might have on the plastic, or finish making your notes. In around 30 seconds time, we're going to move onto the next slide, onto a little bit of a quiz. So you might need a pen and paper. But if you need longer than 30 seconds in your school or at home, please feel free to pause the video and then we can move on anytime.
Okay, so what we're going to do is, hopefully you've had a little bit of discussion around the different types of plastics and how we kind of use different plastics in our modern day life. What we're going to do is we're just going to do a few quiz questions. So again, you can do this individually, or you can do it as part of as a group, or you can do it in pairs. Okay, so we're going to ask you 5 questions around plastics. And then what we're going to do after each question, we'll give you, again, similar 30-second pause, or the teacher can pause the video just to come have a little bit of a discussion around it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on to the first question. So first question is, across Europe, what percentage of plastic is only used once? Is it 10%? 25%, 40%, or 100%. We're going to give you 30 seconds, or if you want to pause the video for a little bit longer, you can do. Okay, guys, we're ready for the answer? The answer is C. Okay, in Europe, almost half, 40% of the plastic that we used is only used once. Okay, so that means that after we've used one piece of plastic, it either gets thrown away or it does get recycled. Sometimes that doesn't get recycled. Some of that plastic doesn't get recycled and actually gets thrown into the normal dustbin. Okay, it doesn't get recycled, and again that ends up in landfill. So it gets taken away by the dustbin lorries and goes into landfill, and then that can sometimes end up in the environment, or it can end up in the in streams and ponds and rivers and lakes, and again, it ends up into the sea. Some examples of single-use plastics are food wrapping packages, like that wrap your food, that wrap fruits and vegetables in. We also have drinks bottles as well, and we also have things, containers for snacks and stuff like that as well. So these are all kinds of different single-use plastics. So we're going to move on to question 2. So again, we'll give you an opportunity to kind of reflect on this. But across Europe, what percentage of plastic is recycled? Is it A, 9%, B, 21%, C, 46%, or D, 100%? Again, we'll give you 30 seconds or so, or you can just pause the video to discuss further. Okay, so the answer is that only 9% of all plastic that is made gets recycled and gets can be recycled and used again. That means that 91% of all the plastic that is made does not get recycled. Okay, and this can again end up in landfill. Some people, obviously, you might know, just put rubbish away out the car window, or where you're walking home, they throw sweet wrappers away. These can end up in your hedgerows and have an effect on wildlife. It can end up in streams, it can end up in rivers, it can end up in lakes again. And obviously these can lead to the sea, and it can lead to the oceans as well. Okay, so it's quite a shocking, really, statistic that only 9% of plastic actually gets recycled. Okay, I'm going to move on to question 3. So, question 3. At least 8 million tons of plastic enters the ocean each year. That is the equivalent of a truckload of plastic being dumped into the ocean every minute, B, every hour, C, every day, D, every week. So imagine a lorry pulls up to the sea at one of our coastal towns in Yorkshire, maybe Bridlington, Scarborough, or Cleethorpes. Imagine that a truck pulls up. How often would it have to pull up so that it dumps its rubbish into the sea? Again, 30 seconds, or you can pause the video. Okay, and the answer is A, every minute. Okay, so imagine that every minute of the day, a lorry pulls up to, like I said, to one of our seaside towns, and it dumps a lorry load or a truckload of rubbish into the sea. Okay, how is that going to make you feel? Makes me feel cross. It makes me feel angry. Okay, that actually happens. Okay, that is the equivalent. Imagine that all the lorries every day were in a big traffic jam all the way from the ocean. What would happen is, all the way from Bridlington or Scarborough, one of our towns, there would be a traffic jam all the way from there all the way to New York. Okay, and every single lorry has a big lorry full of rubbish, and that gets tipped into the ocean. Again, that's quite a scary thought. Okay, we're going to move on to question 4. So question 4, it is estimated that there are now how many pieces of plastic per square kilometre in the ocean, in the world's oceans? Okay, so per kilometre, just if you have a look at the football pitch, that's a bit like a kilometre, square kilometre. So is it 46 pieces? Is it B, 460 pieces, C, 4,600 pieces, or D, 46,000 pieces? Okay, again, we'll give you 30 seconds, or you can pause to discuss further. Okay, and the answer is... So the answer is that per square kilometre in the ocean, there are 100,000 pieces of plastic in that square kilometre. That is the equivalent of 92 pieces of plastic on your school field or on your playground. And again, how would that make you feel that every single day you turned up to school and you saw 92 pieces of rubbish on your school field or on your playground? Again, that would make me upset that I could see all that rubbish. And what effect does this rubbish have? It has effect on the wildlife. It also pollutes the oceans as well. Okay, last question, question 5. Okay, so how many years does it take for plastic to break down naturally before it disappears? Okay, so our food wrapping package here, how long would it take if I was to leave this out in the environment? How long would it take to totally disappear? Okay, would it be A, 5 to 10 years, B, 50 to 100 years, C, 200 to 400 years, or D, 500 to 1,000 years? 30 seconds, or again, pause the video. Okay, and the answer is... So the answer is D. It takes 500 to 1,000 years for a piece of plastic to totally disappear in the ocean, or in nature. Okay, that means that this piece of plastic here, if I was to leave it out in the environment, will probably outlast me. It'll outlast your parents. It'll outlast you. May even outlast your grandchildren as well. Okay, what effect does this have? Okay, this has a massive effect because it can actually poison the wildlife in the ocean. Okay, and it can actually cause them to die as well. So it does have a massive impact on the environment. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to watch a short video about how plastic pollution impacts on the ocean, and in particular how it impacts on the wildlife in the ocean.
So what happens to your plastic when you've finished with it? Some of the world's plastics are recycled, but not all plastics are easily recycled. Unfortunately, a lot of our plastics end up with other waste in landfill. Landfill is a way of getting rid of rubbish by burying it in dugout pits around the world. Because plastic is so durable, nearly every piece of plastic ever made and thrown away still exists today. Much of our discarded plastic ends up in the ocean. Our litter makes its way into gutters and drains, feeding streams and rivers that all empty into the ocean. Over time, plastic breaks into little bits, creating tiny particles called microplastics. These gather, float, and sink in our rivers, seas, and oceans, and they stay for hundreds of years. So what effect is all this plastic having on our oceans and the sea creatures that live within it? Whilst I was sailing on my yacht, I took water samples from all around the world, and almost every single one of them had microplastics. Even in the furthest point from land, in the depths of the Southern Ocean where no humans live, Point Nemo, we found microplastics. Fish are eating the tiny plastic particles, and larger animals like turtles and seals are getting caught up in plastic such as discarded fishing nets, stopping them from moving and feeding. And some seabirds like seagulls are mistakenly eating plastic for food, ending up in their stomachs. Sadly, plastic in our oceans is killing at least 100,000 sea mammals a year. So what can we do to help? You may be thinking, what difference does my bottle make? But if everyone on the planet stopped using just one bottle, that would save 7 billion bottles globally. So you can see how important small changes are. Next time you reach for that plastic straw, plastic bottle, or plastic bag, think, do I really need this? or is there an alternative? Ask your grandparents how they lived before plastic was everywhere. Can we learn from them on how to reduce our use of plastic, such as having your milk delivered in glass bottles like in the old days? You can also help by taking part in a beach clean with your parents. Let's all do our bit for our planet and pass on plastic.
Okay, so hopefully you just watched that video and you can see what a massive impact plastic pollution has on the environment, and in particular the wildlife in the oceans. What happens is, once the plastic goes into the environment and it goes into the seas, it gets broken down into what are called microplastics. Okay, now these are little pieces of plastic, really tiny, tiny pieces of plastic. What happens is, those tiny pieces of plastic get eaten by the fish. Okay, so a small fish might eat that. Then what happens is that obviously a bigger fish comes along and eats that fish, and so on. It goes up the food chain where it might get to sharks, dolphins, whales that are eating these smaller fish and smaller sea creatures. What happens is the plastic starts to poison the fish. The fish end up dying, and that has a knock-on effect on all those animals as well. But also there's things that go into the ocean as well, like discarded fishing nets or plastic bottles. Okay, these again can damage turtles or sharks or dolphins they can get them maybe stuck in the throat, or they can get entangled in them, which causes them to die, unfortunately. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to pass over to Luke, and he's got a little activity for you to do as a class. I'll pass over to him.
Thank you, Matt. I just want to thank you for that quiz and the video, for sharing the video, to be fair, Matt. I found some of the statistics quite shocking there, really. Especially how long it takes for single-use plastic to dissolve. Basically, 500 to 1,000 years is a really, really long time. Just so you guys at home or at school understand a little bit more about the different types of plastic. So just to recap, they were single-use plastics, limited-use plastics, and extended-use plastics. We're now going to go into a little task you can do either by yourself in small groups or as a class if you're watching this at school, where you can we've identified a number of different types of plastic or pieces of plastic. So as you can see on the screen, we've got everything from a football to some cones to a laptop, a shampoo bottle, knives and forks, a ruler, a water bottle. What we'd like you to do is make a list. You can split your page in three maybe. We've got single-use plastics, limited-use plastics, and extended-use plastics. So maybe working with the person next to you or in discussion with your teacher or parent, can you sort those into the areas that you think they might go? So like we've already discussed, I'll give you one for free. A water bottle, a plastic water bottle that is, might go into single-use plastics. Whereas a football, for example, is something that you might use over and over and over again for, let's say, 6 months to a year, every single day. That might be classed as an extended use piece of plastic or equipment. So there's two examples for you. If you need to now as a class, you can pause the video, which you probably will need because you might need around 5 minutes for this task. Myself and Matt will pause for 30 seconds just in case, and then we'll move on to the next task. Right, so we're just going to move on. Feel free to pause if you need to. Right, so what we're going to do now, we're now towards the end of the assembly or the PowerPoint, if you like. So we're now going to turn it around onto you guys as individuals, or you guys as children or as adults or as teachers. What can you do to help reduce the plastic that's going into the oceans or to help clear up the plastics? We want you guys to make a pledge. And the way we like you to do that is to design a poster where it outlines what you intend to do to help reduce plastic in your area or at your school or at your home. There's loads of different ways we've seen this done from when me and Matt have delivered this assembly over the last year. Some of the ideas are some examples you might want to do or might want to use or might become your pledge. You could create a recycling club at your school if you've not already got one, or something similar like an eco club. You could help your parents sort the recycling at home, or ask them if they currently do recycle and recycle everything properly. You could help get that on track. You could start to use a reusable straw or a paper straw instead of using the plastic ones. Or you could use a different type of water bottle that isn't a plastic water bottle. So that's my pledge. At the minute, I'm currently using a plastic water bottle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow Matt's example and find myself a water bottle that I can use for an extended period of time. So that will be my pledge. So the way we like you to do it is design the biggest, the best poster you can. Some examples are shown here on the screen. We want you to be as creative as possible. You could paint them, you could use actual plastics on the poster. It can be designed in any way you like. It can be done by yourself, it can be done with your family at home, or it can be done as a class. Once you've finished your poster, obviously given the current circumstances because of the virus that's going around and social distancing, we can't come into your school to see your posters, which is really upsetting for us because it's normally the favourite part of our assembly when we learn all about your pledges. So what we'd like you to do, you could pass these on to your teachers to take pictures of, and they could email them to me. I will post my email address later on, but if not, my email address is ssp@wakefieldtrinity.com, or you could tag them in Twitter. So if your school has Twitter or social media, you could tag at Wakefield SSP in a tweet, and then we will see your posters from there, and we will be sure to retweet the best of the posters, which I'm sure they'll all be amazing anyway. So that pretty much concludes this assembly. I hope you've all enjoyed it. It's something a little bit different for us. I'm sure it's something a little bit different for you guys as well. So thank you for listening, and we are really, really looking forward to seeing your posters.